The collector's dilemma, the things about collecting that just kind of drive people wild. It's a conversation that always happens. I hear this stuff in, the comments all the time, and I don't think there's really, a ton of videos out there, a ton of people really talking about this, but over the entire time that I've been here on YouTube, these have all been talked about at some point in the comments. And so bringing this all together, one of the very first frustrating things for me is when a movie or a TV show gets put out, but then none of the rest of them. Like we have, and it's a lot of times it has to do with rights issues, but then there's times where it's not rights issues. It's usually, the studio thinks that there's no interest in it, so they just stop putting money into it, and then you're just kind of stuck. But then you have things like rights issues. Stakeout. I think it's a Touchstone film, so maybe that's something that's going to happen with the Sony Disney deal. But Stakeout, the very first one, we only ever got a DVD, but the sequel, which is a whole different company, I don't remember who it is, was put out on multiple different Blu-rays. So it's just one of those things like, how do you justify it, especially in this day and age where there's a lot of people that are upgrading their TVs, they're getting the 4K, they want the best possible picture, and a lot of those people don't want to go backwards and get a DVD, especially at a higher price point. But then there's like stuff like this. Now I have these TV shows here, Archer, it's a raunchy cartoon, and it was on FX channel, but they only ever put out 9 seasons of this on physical media. Australia got 9 seasons, Canada got 9 seasons, we got 9 seasons, but all in all, I think there's like 11 or 12 seasons out there. So to watch the rest of the show, you're going to have to stream it some kind of way, and the internet's not good in my house. So it's one of those things that the internet's not good. I don't get to stream stuff. It's a waste of time and a waste of money for me. I'd rather have my physical media, but you can homebrew this stuff, you can make it, but that's not for everybody. But right now, I've only ever seen the first 9 seasons, and people can argue that the first seasons were great, and as they went on, they weren't as good. So just be happy with what you got. But if you want the whole thing, you want the complete series, you can't have it. It's a frustrating thing. And so you don't know that initially when the first one comes out. You buy season 1, you get it, you watch it, you enjoy it. Season 2 comes out, you get the same thing, and then you're invested into this entire thing. Season 9 comes out, and that's the last. And so they announce season 10, everyone gets excited, and then season 10 just never comes out. So that's one of the biggest things that's a frustrating thing for many people. But then this came out 11 years ago. We only got 1 season, and they stopped. More than likely, it was the interest, but there's a ton of interest in this film, and I blame this on poor marketing or whatever. I never saw this in stores, and at the time when it came out, 2004, I was heavy into buying DVDs and going to the store regularly. Every single Tuesday, I was at the Best Buy, I was at the Circuit City, and they were kind of close to each other, and I would go to both of them every single Tuesday looking for stuff. And in that time, I never saw this. Who's the Boss? I think it's a great show. It's something I grew up with in the 80s. We only got season 1, and this is something I found at a thrift store, brand new sealed, years ago. But when it was new in 2004, I didn't know it existed, and because I guess nobody else did, they stopped making them. You never got season 2, but there's tons and tons of people on Reddit forums today talking about how they can't wait for season 2 to come out. They hope it comes out someday, but 11 years later, I don't think it's coming. And obviously, unless like another boutique label picks it up in another country and they put out this like they do sometimes, that's pretty much the only way you're going to get the rest of this on physical. Now, I'm sure that it might be streaming somewhere, but I'm not a streaming person. It's not for me. Now, these two things. Just recently picked up this one on VHS, Modern Problems, because I wanted the film, but the DVD was kind of on the pricier side, and is a 4K coming, is a Blu-ray coming. It never has been put out on Blu-ray, but it was cheap for $1. That's why I grabbed it. But if I had spent the $14, $15, $20, whatever this DVD was, and then a Blu-ray is coming down the road, I wouldn't get it day one, and it would just be a frustrating waste of money. But if I don't buy it, especially from Amazon, maybe we'll never get a Blu-ray because people don't think there's interest. So it's kind of a double-edged sword thing. But then this is something I've had in my collection for a long time. I love the film. I just finally pulled the trigger on the German Blu-ray. It's coming to me in the mail. And yeah, we did get like a 2-pack. I don't think we ever got a standalone version of this Blu-ray, but there was a 2-pack with another film, and I think that's out of print now. So it's something that I never came across, and I'm not a big fan of those 2 movies on 1 disc. So at the time when it was new, that's probably why I passed on it. I'm talking about Time Cop. This one here, I pulled the trigger, I imported the German version, and then the next day we got a leaked image of the 4K coming out of Shout Factory. So it's one of those things that I still haven't even got the Blu-ray. It's in the mail. It's coming from Germany. It's going to be more of a hassle to return that, even if they do accept returns. It's one of those things that more of a hassle. I'm going to end up keeping it. I'm not going to get that 4K day one because it's a double dip price on a movie that I like it, I enjoy it. I think the Blu-ray is going to be fine, but it's kind of frustrating. Now, going from the VHS to the Blu-ray is going to be a huge jump in quality, but I would have loved to have that 4K, and I'm just not going to double dip and spend the extra money on it. The other dilemma is this. This show right here was a Netflix show. That's where it lives. You have season 1 and season 2 of Stranger Things. They came in these really cool premium packaging from Target, and that's why most people bought these. But then at the same time, these right here, I think fetch for a ton of money on eBay, but there's no season 3, there's no season 4, and I think somebody made some kind of attempt to do a homebrew thing and make these boxes, and that's kind of cool if you're into that, but I'm not really a huge arts and crafts guy. Like, I can get away with some stuff, and I've done homebrew, and I've printed my own custom covers. I get into that, but building these really cool VHS box sets, it's not really my thing, but it is for somebody, and more power to them. But I would rather just purchase this, have it on the shelf, and be happy. They're not doing it anymore. It seems like it's stuck because it's a streaming thing and they want you to go over to Netflix. But I've said, streaming doesn't work for me. It's just not my thing. I'd rather have the physical. But now I have those two, and it's another one of those things. If you don't buy the initially, you're never going to get the next ones. They're never going to come out. But then they're not. So you spend all this money on it, you don't have it. This one right here, Fright Night. Fright Night is a great movie. I love it. I mean, maybe you don't love it, but I do. And it's one of those things that I have this Blu-ray. It came out on 4K finally, but in Steelbook only. I'm not a Steelbook collector. I've had them, but they come damaged. Like, if I could go to the store and get them, that might be a different story. But most of the time, unless it's in my top 25 favorite films of all time, I'm passing on a 4K. And so this one here, I think the Blu-ray is okay. If I didn't have it in the collection at all, I probably would have bit the bullet and just grabbed that 4K. But it's out of print. Then it went on eBay for crazy expensive prices. People were buying them at that higher price. And then shortly within that year or so, they reprinted the Steelbook. And so there was a second limited run of it. And so then you could get it. But if people had spent the more money on that more expensive eBay price, and then shortly later that it gets reprinted, it's one of those things that's also frustrating. Like, I would have definitely been really mad if I'm not going to do it, and I don't do it, but if I had spent like $50, $60, $100 on a movie that I really wanted, and then within that year they just print out some more, it's one of those things. Not very often does the same company in the same year reprint an out of print title with the same artwork, the same everything in a limited run reprint. So that's kind of, at the time when it happened, it seemed like it was, I guess, unheard of. So most people didn't even expect it. So I know that I would have been frustrated, but I've kept this because it's okay. It works. I enjoy it. There's nothing about this Blu-ray that I dislike, but having the 4K and also having the upgraded surround track would be nice. I just don't want another Steelbook in my collection. Like, unless it makes my top 25, there's a few exceptions that I will, but on average, I'm not trying to get Steelbook only movies. And if that's the only option, I've imported movies from other countries just because I didn't want the Steelbook only. These movies here have never been, outside of DVD. So we have 3 movies, and there's a ton of them, and we talk about it all the time. But this movie here, Encino Man, never got a Blu-ray. But we're getting a new release of a 4K that's already been put out before, or we're getting an upgrade of something that has been on Blu-ray a million times. So the fact that something like this just kind of stuck on an older format seems frustrating. This other movie here, What About Bob? One of my favorites, just a great summertime flick, great cast. But another one, it's stuck on an older format, but yet we're getting, a second release of a 4K movie because the first release sold out. So I understand it's cheaper to re-release something that they already made as opposed to restoring this and putting it out. But this has never been on Blu-ray. This one here, Captain Ron, another one of my favorites, never been on Blu-ray, and this is a Touchstone film, so this is probably, and I think this one is too. So okay, these two movies are Touchstone movies. So what about Bob and Captain Ron? So that's the reason. It's the Disney debacle. So hopefully with that Sony deal, these come out sooner than later, because they have never been put out on Blu-ray. And again, we're getting second and third dips on a 4K movie. I think The Labyrinth has been put out a ton of times, and it just got a re-release from Shout Factory. And so that's another dilemma, is the movies getting released on one label, and then when they lose the rights, another label picking them up. Now, I understand different parts of the world, so if a release happens in Australia, and then another label in America picks it up, that's really kind of no big deal. But the fact that most of us import movies or buy things from other countries, it's starting to become a big deal. What really it sucks about that is when a label comes out and they put out a version of a movie, or a studio does, and then later on, the similar company puts out a different version of it, and then they push this FOMO of selling out, got to get it now, and then you see the eBay scalper prices, and then people get that FOMO or they want to buy it, and then all of a sudden like a cheaper version comes out. It's happened a bunch of times, and I try to stay away from that as much as I can. In my all-time favorite movies, I have spent a little bit extra money and gone that route, but it's frustrating as all hell. Now, the other thing that's just really getting under my skin lately is the rising prices of physical media, and everyone's feeling it. There's videos dedicated to this topic, whole live streams I've seen dedicated to this whole topic. I've talked about it in past, like it's come up in videos, it's come up in live streams, but I've never really dedicated an entire whole block of time for this. But it is frustrating that the prices are increasing at an astronomical rate, but then there's obvious, it's obvious price gouging, and so how it feels. So recently, and I mean, I think the price has come down since then, but the pre-order price for a movie was at the $43 price tag. Now, recently, I was able to find it another place that was like $27 price tag for the pre-order, and then Amazon did reduce that price down to $27. But initially, it was at that $43 price tag. Huge sticker shock. The steelbooks lately, there's been a few steelbooks that came out at the higher, like closer to $60 price tag, really expensive. I know Willow had a huge price tag on their steelbook, and here in America, we only got the Willow steelbook. That was it. We didn't get a slipcover version. We didn't get another version of this movie. I actually imported mine from France, and I ended up paying less with the shipping and the VAT tax than what the American steelbook was selling for. Now, I think since then it has gone on sale, or it's a little bit cheaper now, but initially those prices are crazy. And that's a thing where, these movies, like this movie here, I think when this was new, this was at the $25 price range, around about there. Now, if this came out and it has two discs, but the discs, they're in these Echo cases. I absolutely hate these, and I try to replace these as soon as possible. I don't have any double cases right at the moment, or I would. But this is something that you're getting a cheap case, you're getting the bare minimum packaging on this, and they're trying to charge premium prices for this stuff. If I can import a premium box set from England or another country, and I have plenty of them, and I can get that at a decent, fair price, at the higher $30 to $40 price range, in that range, but then a standard version is being sold for $43, or that's the sticker that they're putting out there initially, and eventually it goes down. I think it's just deceptive practices. So it's a dilemma. The stuff is increasing. If you stop buying it, they're going to stop putting it out. If you stop buying it, maybe they'll lower the prices. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's another double-edged sword. It just kind of, it feels like price gouging, because there was another 4K that recently came out. I think the price tag was $24, brand new for a 4K. But if a popular title gets put out on 4K, then all of a sudden, like, that's a $30 or $35. Like, it's clear price gouging. It didn't cost more than the other one. And I mean, I get that they're trying to recoup advertising cost, and the budgets, different budget films might have different things to pay for. But in general, the cost to produce a 4K movie or a disc is going to roughly be the same as another one, depending on the title. So why is one 24 and one being sold at 60? It always begs the question, if you don't buy it, is this stuff going to go away? Or are they just going to actually wise up and reduce the price to where it needs to be to make everybody happy? Now, granted, the cheaper the possible, everybody's going to be happy at that point. But there should be a standard price for this stuff. And if there isn't a standard price, and in one country, like here in America, Willow was like $60. I think Willow was like $50 or $60 price tag. It had that higher price tag for that steelbook, but the same versions of those movies in France or in other countries through Amazon had a cheaper price. The other thing is the formats, the conversation of, I'm a 4K only guy, I'm a Blu-ray only guy. I totally get it. Collect how you want to collect. That's that. But for me, it's not about the format, it's about the movie. So I still have VHS tapes, DVDs, I have a little bit of all of it, because there's tons of movies that I enjoy that are on those older formats. Not everybody has the luxury of having multiple different TVs. Some people only just have a 4K television. And so granted, some of these older movies on DVD, especially VHS, are not going to look as good on your 4K TV as they would on one of these older CRT TVs. But I do know plenty of people that have VCRs hooked up to a 4K TV, and it's just about the movie for them. So if it's one of those things where you don't have to have the most pristine possible picture, and granted, an amazing 4K movie on a great TV is an awesome experience, but sometimes it's just about having the movie. Merch link is always down below. Let me know what you think about all this stuff, and if there's a dilemma or a problem or something that you've seen or that you're coming across that I didn't mention. With that, you're going to want to check out this video right here. Remember to watch a movie today, and I'll catch you guys next time.